to Exodus chapter 32, and let's read from verses, 1? Verses 1. So go ahead and read.
And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron, and said unto him, Up, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him.
Okay. Now, here, and we're going to backtrack a little bit, but here we have that the people saw that, Moses was not there anymore. So therefore now, they want to go after other gods and to go through this ritual before these other gods and so forth. Now let's continue reading verses 2, and you're going to see something that's very interesting here. I want him to read it because when I go through the rest of the teaching, this will come back to you. It will really hit. So go ahead and read verses 2.
And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives, of your sons, and of your daughters, and bring them unto me.
Okay, so they're taking off, they're removing from themselves all the glitter, all the fancy stuff that they had. They're stripping themselves of all their beauty. Now remember this precept, this concept, okay? Whatever happened to the woman happened to Messiah. Whatever Israel went through, the Messiah also felt it. He went through that. That's why Isaiah was saying that. Isaiah 53 and 5, okay? So the role of the Messiah, he takes on the role of his wayward wife. Keep that concept in mind, yes.
I just wanted to point out the fact that if you notice in Scripture, what's happened here is that Israel was being unfaithful, because what was going on the mountain was that they were receiving their ketubah, their marriage contract. And in Hebraic culture, the husband would leave his wife for a while to go build a house that's a part of his father's house, build an extension onto that, and for the time, his wife does not know when he will return, but she has to wait and be faithful. This was what was going on here at Mount Sinai.
Amen. Amen. You're right on point, and that is very true, that this was a test they had to go through to prove them. And we can see as we continue, and we can skip through because they went through the process of making this other gods out of gold, fashioned after the gods of Egypt. Now let's jump down to verses 19 and read from there.
And it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh unto the camp, that he saw the calf, and dancing, and Moses' anger waxed hot. And he cast the tables out of his hands, and brake them beneath the mount. And he took the calf which they had made, and burnt it in the fire, and ground it to powder, and strewed it upon the water, and made the children of Israel drink of it.
Okay, so when we look at this text here, remember we just read Numbers chapter 5, and we saw that a priest went through a procedure to try the wife to see whether she was faithful or not. In Shemot 32, verses 1, we saw that the wife who was in the ketubah with the Most High turned away, went after other gods, other husbands. Okay? Now, Moses was that priest who went through this process of grinding the calf to powder. He burned it with fire, he ground it to powder, and he mixed it with water. This is the same principle or precept that we find in Numbers chapter 5. Okay? So once again, this is talking about the bride and her husband, the spirit of jealousy, and how this plays out with the Messiah, what he bore for our iniquities. And as he says, in the volume of the book, it is written of me. So this is a picture story here, letting us know what he had to go through. This is more proof to show that he is the true Messiah of the Scriptures. So continue reading.
And Moses said unto Aaron, What did this people unto thee, that thou hast brought so great a sin upon them? And Aaron said, Let not the anger of my Lord wax hot. Thou knowest the people, that they are set on mischief. For they said unto me, Make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him. And I said unto them, Whosoever hath any gold, let them break it off. So they gave it me, and I cast it into the fire, and there came out this calf.
So they were willing to strip themselves bare on behalf of another man, get into bed with another man, take off the jewelry, take this off, take this thing off, so they can have pleasure with this other man. And the same thing with the house of Israel. Because remember, Moses made the house of Israel to drink of this water. We get a better understanding in Numbers 5, the type of water that it was, because the spirit of jealousy was upon him, the husband. So continue reading, verse 25.
And when Moses saw that the people were naked, for Aaron had made them naked unto their shame among their enemies.
So they were naked. They were stripped naked. That is going to ring a bell when we go into the Sotah. Continue.
Then Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, Who is on the Lord's side?
Okay, where did Moses stood?
In the gate of the camp.
He was in the gate of the camp. That's another clue. Okay, keep that in mind. Moses, the priest, the gate of the camp, all those things are very important clues. Go ahead.
And said, Who is on Yahweh's side? Let him come unto me. And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together unto him. And he said to them, Thus saith Yah, God of Israel, Put every man his sword by his side, and go in and out from gate to gate through the camp, and slay every man his brother, and every man his companion, and every man his neighbor. And the children of Levi did according to the word of Moses. And there fell of the people that day about 3,000 men.
Amen. Read down to verses 30.
For Moses had said, Consecrate yourselves today to Yah, even every man upon his son and upon his brother, that he may bestow upon you a blessing this day.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses said unto the people, Ye have sinned a great sin, and now I will go up unto Yah, peradventure I shall make an atonement for your sin.
Okay, so Moses now, if you notice carefully, and one reason why it's difficult sometimes for folks to really see the Messiah in the Torah is because the way it is written, the Lord tends to hide certain aspects of himself. Because Moses is a type of the Messiah. Now, keep your finger on Exodus chapter 32 for a moment. And let us go to Deuteronomy chapter 18 and 15. Deuteronomy 18 and 15. I want to show you how Moses and Messiah are interchangeable. Deuteronomy 18 and 15. So go ahead and read that for me.
Yah thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren, like unto me, unto him he shall hearken.
So he says here that God is going to raise up, Yahweh is going to raise up a prophet like unto Moses, a prophet like unto Moses, and you should listen to him. This is pointed to the Messiah in the future. So when we keep that in mind, and you can also look at Acts, but we're not going to go into that. Acts 3 and 22 pretty much mentions the same thing too. But if you look closely, in other words, when you read Exodus 32 where it says, I shall make an atonement for your sin, that is Moses acting out the role of the Messiah. That the Messiah is going to make an atonement for your sin. But if you notice carefully in verses 30, it says, and it came to pass on the morrow. That is pointing to the future. Something to keep in mind. We're not going to get into that right now. But that's pointing to the future. That in the future, that there's something of an atonement for the sin. Because when the Messiah came the first time, that was not an atonement Because Passover is for redemption, not for atonement. Towards the end of the year, in the Feast of the Fall, that's where atonement comes in. That's another subject. We'll leave that alone. But what I want to show here is that the question is, how was the priests, the Levites, how were they able to go? Because remember, he made the children of Israel, the whole house of Israel, and I think it's about 3 million people around that mountain place, okay? And they're all guilty to some degree. But they need to know who the rebels were, who are the ones that went out, okay, and enjoyed this orgy with this heathen gods and so forth. So they made them to drink of this, all of them. Now, the question is, how were the priests able to know who was guilty and who was innocent? And I'm going to open up the floor and see who wants to give the answer on that. How are the priests able to know the 3,000 that was guilty?
When they drank the water, when they drank the golden water, what had ground and give them, then it showed up in them. They were plagued.
That's right.
Because if you look at verse 34, it says the Lord plagued them. So they were plagued by drinking that water, and they were shown to be which one was which one, so that the innocent would not get slain with the guilty.
Very true. You nailed it right on the head. You got an A+. Yes, Adam.
And the way that this occurred was, remember, we're talking about the Sotah, which is trying a woman for jealousy. When the woman has either gone a whoring or the spirit of jealousy come upon the man. And so the way that this happened was the bitter water. Moses gave them the bitter water to drink, and this caused the bellies to swell and the thighs to rot of those who had sinned, those rebellious people, those 3,000 that were rebels that enjoyed what was going on.
That's right. Now, I'm glad that both of you all said that, because you have explained it very well and very true, that this is how they were able to detect those that were guilty from those who were innocent. This is the laws of jealousy in action. Okay? Now, as we said, this is a trial of a woman suspected. Okay, so now let's look and see, what does the trial of a wife by a jealous husband have to do with us? Before we understand this teaching, we must first identify who the husband is and his wife, and who is the wife. Okay? Then we will get the understanding of who was wounded and for the transgressions for whom. To get that understanding, let us go now to Isaiah chapter 54. Isaiah 54. And we'll come back later on to Exodus again. But let's go forward, because I want to cover some of these things here. Isaiah 54 and verses 4 to verses 6.
Fear not, for thou shalt not be ashamed, neither be thou confounded. For thou shalt not be put to shame, for thou shalt forget the shame of thy youth, and shalt not remember the reproach of thy widowhood any more. For thy Maker is thine husband, the Lord of hosts is his name, and thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, the God of the whole earth, shall he be called.
So this identifies who is the husband. Verses 4 gives us something to really glean at. Much can be said about that. But it identifies this woman as being a widow. Okay? It identifies this woman as being a widow. It says, Isaiah 54 and 4 says, Fear not, for you shall not be ashamed. Why is she ashamed? Because of her transgressions. Okay? Neither shall you be confounded, because her mind was not right and she went off in a different direction. For you shall not be put to shame, because when the woman goes through the process of judgment for her sin, she is put to shame. And we'll look at that also. For you shall forget the shame of your youth. The reason is because usually when a young lady, she's young, she's attractive, a lot of things is happening, everything is upright, looking good, nice, and so forth. During that time, she flaunts herself in the presence of other men. Okay, now when she's old and so forth, that's a different story. But when she's young and beautiful and attractive, she tends to use that to do whatever she feels like doing. And it says here, and shall not remember the reproach of your widowhood anymore. She lost her husband. Okay, this is also a hint about the Messiah, because Israel had lost her husband. Okay, now it says in verses 5, and this is where I really want to focus on, is that to identify this woman, Israel, as having a husband. And it says, for your Maker is your husband, the Lord of hosts is his name, and your Redeemer. It's very important, your Redeemer, the one who is buying you, purchasing you. Okay? The Holy One of the whole world. Is that what it says? The Holy One of the Baptist Church. The Holy One of the Catholic Church. No, it's the Holy One of Israel. The God of the whole earth shall he be called. The power of the whole earth. That's Elohim. So we identify who this husband is. Okay? Who this husband is. Now, let us take a look at the wife. Let's take a look at the wife. We can actually continue the verses 6 here, and I'll read it. It says, for the Lord hath called you a woman forsaken, or cast aside, and grieved in spirit, and a wife. So that gives us an understanding that, in context, Israel is the bride of the Messiah. A wife of youth. When you was refused, saith your God. Now, let's go to the book of Hosea, chapter 2, and we're going to pick it up at verses 19. Hosea, chapter 2. We're going to identify the wife. Because all we're doing right now is just laying down the foundation to understand why the Messiah went through what he did. Why was it recorded? Because it says that there was many things that happened, many signs, many wonders, but only the things that's important for us to believe was recorded. So why was the places that he was taken, all the different things that happened to him, why was those things recorded? It's because, I'll save it until later on. Let's go on. Hosea chapter 2, 19, and we'll read verses 19 to 20.
And I will betroth thee unto me forever.
That's being engaged. He's saying, I am going to be engaged with you unto me. Is that for a short time?
Forever.
Forever. So, that means to say, no matter what this woman have done, he has to salvage her. He has to save her. No matter what she has done, he is bound to her. He is the one that was always faithful. He never transgressed against his wife. That's the reason why Numbers chapter 5 was written as a man who was jealous. He was not the one running around. It was his wife. He was suspecting his wife. So the conversation was never about him. He was never the one on trial. It was always his wife. But he took the punishment of his wife upon himself. Now continue reading.
I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness, and in judgment, and in loving kindness, and in mercies. I will even betroth thee unto me in faithfulness, and thou shalt know Yah.
He says, I will even be engaged with you, engage you unto me in faithfulness. Okay, we all understand what that means. And you shall know the Lord. Now when it says know, that is a sexual connotation right there. It's like consummation. You're engaged and then you have the honeymoon. Okay, so you're engaged and then you're going to go through that process and we will be joined together once and for all. All right? So we'll leave it at that. The point is that I wanted to point out here is that there is a connection between Israel as the bride and the Mashiach. And whatever that he is doing, He's doing it for her sake, not anyone else, because he's not in covenant with anyone else. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 3, verses 20, to continue to see who this woman is that's put on trial. Okay, and for what reasons? Jeremiah chapter 3 and 20.
Surely as a wife treacherously departeth from her husband.
Surely as a wife treacherously departing, leaving her husband.
So have ye dealt treacherously with me.
So you left my house, my bed, and you went somewhere else.
O house of Israel.
No, Baptist church.
O house of Israel, saith the Lord.
So Israel is the bride of the Messiah. Not the Father, the Messiah. Not the Father. Because it will break everything in Torah for Israel to be the bride of the Father, and the Son is going to have her, his father's wife. That will break everything in Torah. So she doesn't belong to the Father. Israel was given to be the bride of the Messiah. All right? Now we're going to look and see that this woman is in a ketubah. Okay? Let's go to Exodus 20. Shemot 20. Because how does a woman enter into contract to become a wife? To become a wife, you have to be in a contract, an agreement. Now, we'll go to Exodus 19 first, before we go to 20. And we're going to read from verses 3, 19 and 3, read down to verses 9.
And Moses went up unto God, and Yah called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say unto the house of Yaakov, and tell the children of Israel, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself.
And brought you unto myself. In other words, like you see the cartoon, Popeye the Sailor Man fighting for Olive, his wife. Okay? So this is what he's saying. Just like you see the Cinderella story, the Three Musketeers. I mean, all the little stories that you see, you have a hero and a heroine. The hero is fighting to save the woman that he wants, okay? And this is what he did. He says, look, you saw how I beat up the Egyptians for your sakes, and I brought you to myself.
Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine.
So I have all of these women I can deal with, but I want you. You're the special treasure. You're the one that I have my eye on. Continue.
And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, and an holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their faces all these words which Yah commanded him.
So Moses was a matchmaker. All right? He had so many different roles. He was the one. At one time he was acting as the Messiah. At another time he was acting as the matchmaker. Another time he was different roles. So at this point in time, this is the story of a matchmaker. This is what Moses was doing. He spoke to the husband. Husband says, set up this arranged marriage and so forth. And then he comes and he talked to the bride. Continue reading.
And all the people answered together and said, All that Yah hath spoken we will do.
So right here is where the engagement took place, where it says, all that the Lord has spoken we will do. In other words, they said, I do. Okay, I do. And from the time they says, I do, to all the words, now they have entered into part of the stages of this marriage contract. Okay?
And Moses returned the words of the people unto Yah. And Yah said unto Moses, Lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with thee, and believe thee forever.
Now, remember, when you look at most of these Christian marriages, which is not even correct to begin with, you'll see that the priest stands before the couple and says, will you, Jane Public, take Joe Stranger as your husband? And she says, I do. And this is what happened here. You have Moses took the words from the wife-to-be and brought it back to the man and says, okay, she agreed. Then they came into this agreement, and now the priest continues the conversation or the going through the process of the ritual, the ceremony, going through everything to get the contract and everything together. So now, let's go over to Exodus 20. So this is where the recitation, sometimes the priest may go through some things and says, through sickness or in health, better or for worse, this and that on the other thing. And sometimes the bride may read from a piece of paper, oh, my love, such and such and such, I'm going to be faithful to you, and you're the this and that. And the husband will take out a piece of paper and read, oh, my honey bun, and he'll go through all this stuff here. And this is where we come to Exodus chapter 20. So read from verses 1 for me. The words that was spoken by the husband.
And Yah spake all these words, saying, I am Yah thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt.
So here he's declaring, I am Popeye. I'm the one that fought for you. I'm the hero that fought for you.
Out of the house of bondage.
I took you from nothing.
Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
You shall not have any powers or husbands. Okay, that's part of the agreement.
Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth.
I don't want you to have any Facebook page, any albums. I don't want you to have any pictures lying around your house, my house. I don't want you to have anything in your wallets. No kind of pictures, nothing of any other guy. Okay?
Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them.
Okay, that's sexual talk. Don't even sleep with them.
For I am Yah, thy God, am a jealous God.
I'm your husband. I'm a jealous husband. So now we're going to stop here for a second. This is where it connects back to the laws of jealousy in Numbers chapter 5. He says, if the spirit of jealousy comes upon the man, the spirit. Now, that word spirit is a hint, it's a remesh, pointing to Yehoshua. Let's put it that way. Okay, the husband to be. The husband that has come into this covenant. Spirit of jealousy. So now we connect the dots here. And I'm not going to go any further on this because I think we're starting to see the picture here. But continue to read the rest of verses 5.
Visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments.
Okay, so he's going to show mercy to those that love him. If you love me, if you keep my commandments, that's the way you can prove that you love me and want to be in my house. So we're talking about a husband who's building his house. He sets the rules for his house. He puts his wife in a protected environment. He gives his wife an inheritance. She has all the wealth and everything else. So he goes out to work. Now the wife decides she wants to, slip out and do everything else. So we have a husband that identifies himself as being jealous. Now let's go to Psalms 78, and we go to verses 1. Psalm 78 and verses 1. And we're going to see how the wife stirred up the husband to be suspicious of her and to be jealous. Okay? Psalm 78, and verses 1.
Give ear, O my people, to my law. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth.
Okay, so he's saying to Israel, listen to me, Israel, to my law, my ketubah. Incline your ears to the words of my mouth. And we saw that in Exodus 20. Now let's jump down to verses 56.
Yet they tempted and provoked the Most High Yah, and kept not his testimonies.
Okay, so they provoked him. The ketubah that they agree on, and they said, everything that he says we're going to do. Guess what they did now? They provoked him, and they did not keep his instructions, his ketubah, his marriage covenant. Imagine the wife says, oh, honey bun, I love you so much. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it's on paper. She not only read it, but she also spoke it. Okay? So it was written, it was spoken, it was confirmed. Witnesses were all around for the marriage ceremony. The bridesmaids and the best man was there. Okay, all the witnesses. Continue reading down, let's go to verses 58.
For they provoked him to anger with their high places, and moved him to jealousy with their graven images.
So they provoked him, and they made him upset. Because what they did was they went after all these other gods, other husbands. And that's breaking the contract that they said, all the words that the Lord says we will do. They moved him to jealousy with their graven images. They sought pleasure from another man instead of being with the Most High. Now let's go over to Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verses 16. Deuteronomy 32 and 16.
They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods. With abominations provoked they him to anger.
Okay, so here we have more witness that they provoked him by going after other Elohims, other husbands. Let's go to Jeremiah. We looked at that already, but let's go to Jeremiah once again, 3 and 20. Jeremiah 3 and 20. And when you get it, you can just go ahead and read that. So basically what I'm doing is I'm setting everything up, and then we're going to go into the Sotah so we can see that the Talmud has a lot of things to glean from that helps us to understand the role of the Messiah. And when you read this in the right context and understanding, there's no way you could deny Yahushua as being the Messiah.
Surely as a wife treacherously departs from her husband, so have ye dealt treacherously with me, O house of Israel, saith Yah.
Okay. Surely as a wife treacherously departing from her husband, treacherously, deceitfully, you made a plan to escape, to sneak out through the back door and do your business and then come back in. That's how you treated me. That's what he's saying. Now let's go over, and you can see in this text here, it's not referring to all the nations. And this is why, once you understand this in the right context, you'll know that the Messiah did not come to die for everyone in the whole world. He came for his bride. That's Israel. Only his bride. Those that has received the ketubah and in contract, in covenant with him by blood. If you want to see the part with the blood and the contract, we go to Shemot 24 and verses 3. Because many times you'll find churches saying, well, there's only 10 commandments, but when the Lord was speaking, when he spake all those words, he didn't stop until chapter 24. He was speaking all the way through. So it's not just 10 commandments. The 10 is just categories of other commandments, main categories. So let's go to verses 3 of Shemot 24, Exodus 24, and pick it up at verses 3.
And Moses came and told the people all the words of Yah, and all the judgments. And all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words which Yah has said we will do.
So once again, it came back and it says, I do. Continue reading.
And Moses wrote all the words of Yah, and rose up early in the morning, and builded an altar under the hill, and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings, and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto Yah. And Moses took half of the blood, and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar.
Okay, so we can see now blood is being initiated into this covenant. Every covenant requires blood. Now, last week or so, Brother Eliah had instructed us and pointed out about the virgin, that this virgin coming to consummate the marriage, the sheet from that honeymoon night, when the blood is spilled on that sheet is folded up, given to the parents, and the father keeps that as records to prove that his daughter was a righteous woman and keeps it for her protection. The blood is not something like we would think is something nasty, or why would they do such a nasty thing to keep the blood? It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with protecting her sanctity, her life. Because if there's no blood, that means to say that she is not a virgin, and therefore the man has taken a maiden that has been defiled in the presence of Israel. And this maiden would have been stoned to death. So if the man now gets jealous and says, my wife was not faithful to me, I went into her for honeymoon, and therefore, days later he has a change of heart. He wants a refund. The father now will take that sheet, come before the judges, husband and the bride will be before the judges and says, listen, this guy here is accusing my daughter of being unfaithful and how she wasn't a virgin when he took her. But I got the proof right here. Here's the sheet. And here are all the witnesses. Now the judges will take that man and punish him. And this man will have to remain faithful all the days of his life. He cannot put this virgin of Israel away. All of these things point to Israel and the Messiah. Because it says, when I see the blood, I will pass over you. So, the blood on the sheet is very, very important. It's part of our heritage and our culture. And continuing in Shemot 24, we can see that blood is now being initiated in this covenant. Okay? Because once the blood is shed, this deal is sealed. Continue reading for me.
And he took the book of the covenant.
He took the book of the covenant, not 2 tablets of stone. It was written in a book first.
And read it in the audience of the people.
He read it again.
And they said, all that Yah hath said we will do, and be obedient.
That's the third time that you find that they said, I do. Not once like you find in Christian marriages, I do and that's it. 3 times they said, and 3 is significant, and I'm not going to get into that. That's the sod. I'll leave that alone. So continue reading this.
And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people.
He sprinkled it on who?
The people.
I'm going to leave that alone too, but think on that. Why is the blood on the people? What does this have to do with the Virgin of Israel having blood come on her and on the sheet? Continue reading.
And said, behold the blood of the covenant, which Yah hath made with you concerning all these words.
Concerning all the words. This ketubah, this covenant is so important that blood had to be shed to make this thing binding. But yet, the Gentile church wants to cast our ketubah away. This is very important. That's why when you read Numbers 5, it shows that this is serious business we're talking about. Now, let's go to Isaiah 53 and 5. Isaiah 53 and 5. Because this is how we're going to be able to understand why he suffered and died the way he did.
But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. So everything that he went through, he did for his wayward wife, the woman that was conspiring against him. Remember, he is in covenant. That's why it says the 3rd and 4th generation and so forth. It doesn't end with just one situation. It continues even to our day. We are the ones who's carrying the spirit of the wife, the house of Israel, and keeping it alive today. We are the wife in exile, okay, out of the husband's house. Now, let's go into the Sotah now. I'm going to get into the rabbinical stuff to help us to understand some things that you're not going to find directly in the Torah. And let's see here. Let's go into the introduction about the Sotah. The principal points of law in connection with a Sotah, which are treated in a tractate, the Tractate of Sotah, as follows. The husband is obliged to give his wife due warning that she must not associate with the man who has aroused his jealousy. Let me stop and explain that. Okay? Before any punishment or judgment is pronounced on this wife, she has to understand all the binding principles, the do's and don'ts per se. He has to instruct her and says, listen, honey,
I don't want you to go after that guy on the street. I want your eyes to be focused on me, because he knows how attractive she is, and he wants all her attention. He's given all his attention to her, and he requires the same. So he's warning her. It says one witness is accepted that she has disregarded the warning, provided he does not testify that she committed adultery, in which case the ordeal would not be applied. So a witness is brought forth. In her presence, in his presence, he's talking to the wife and says, I don't want you to be going after other people. You belong to me. And a witness is standing there to listen to everything. But this witness is kept separate from the other witnesses. Now, let's look and see what we can find in the Brit Hadashah about this witness, okay? This witness. Now, we can go to the Tanakh and look at witnesses, but we want to go to the Brit Hadashah now. Let's go to John chapter 5 and see how this Sotah from the Talmud, how we can find some connections here. John chapter 5, we're going to read from verses 44, and we're going to read down to, I think, 46. John 5, 44, 46.
How can ye believe, which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that cometh from God only? Do not think that I will accuse you to the Father. There is one that accuseth you, even Moses, in whom ye trust. Had ye believed Moses, ye would have believed me, for he wrote of me.
Okay, so the witness was the same matchmaker which was Moses. As I showed you before, he was the one going in between a husband and a wife to make this arranged marriage. And he's saying that, listen, there is one witness, there's one who will accuse you. That's Moses. If you had believed what Moses had said or written, you also will believe on me. Now, verses 39 says, search the scriptures, for in the scriptures, in them, you think you have eternal life. Once again it says, and they are they, the scriptures are they, which testify of me, Yehoshua. Yahweh salvage. What is he salvaging? What is he purchasing? He's purchasing something that belongs to him in the first place. That's what it means. So you already have a witness whom you trust. Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu. That's Moses. Okay? Now let me continue to read about the Sotah here so you'll see as I go into the ordeal how everything connects. And some of these things, I'm not going to get into everything because this is like a primary, a basic understanding I'm giving you. It is claimed that though she be guilty, the water would not affect her if the witness who could prove misconduct were abroad and unable to testify against her, or if she possessed personal merit, or if her husband cohabited with her prior to the test. So when she has to go through this ordeal, there are certain things that has to be correct. You're putting someone through a trial. All the evidence has to be correct. All the things that the lawyers bring forth, all the exhibits, everything that's brought forth has to be lined up correctly. Otherwise, they'll throw the whole case out of the court and says, we have a mistrial because this person missed this. This one forgot to bring this piece of evidence in, and therefore, case dismissed. The accused woman had to bring a meal offering to the temple, and the disposal of the offering is discussed if it became defiled, or the husband died, or witnesses arrived to give evidence of misconduct before she drank the water. So there are certain things that has to be in place, according to the Talmud, to try this woman for her guilt.
Now, I just wanted to say something that you had touched on earlier when you had said that how if they had missed this piece of evidence or something along those lines. It's like what happened when the people had brought the woman that was caught in adultery to Yeshua when he was at the temple.
Mm-hmm.
He was getting ready to try the woman to put upon the curse to get the bitter water. He was reaching down to pick up the dust from from the temple.
Okay, tell you what, hold that thought, find that scripture, we'll read that after this, okay? Just find it and keep your finger on that. Now let me continue reading the Sotah while he gets that piece together. And that's actually true what he's saying, and that makes more connections to how the things that Yeshua did was bringing us back to the prophets and so forth, okay, the law of jealousy in Numbers 5. All right, let me continue reading this piece here about the Sotah so you'll get an understanding of what's going on. And by reading this, certain things are going to pop out to you. All right, let me continue. It says, there follows a detailed account of the procedure adopted for the carrying out of the text. She appears before the local court and then before the great Sanhedrin in Jerusalem. Okay, so first she goes to the local court, then she goes to the Supreme Court in Jerusalem, who solemnly charge her to make confession. This is where the Catholic priest stole our idea about confession and says, my child, please make a confession. Okay, this is where they stole our practices and perverted it. So, charge her to make a confession if she is guilty so as to avoid the unnecessary obliteration of the divine name, which is part of the ceremony. So she has to swear before the presence of the Most High, the name of the Most High. And the priest has to blot out the name and so forth, the thing that's written on parchment. So, gives her a chance to make a confession before the procedure. It's like when you go to court, it says, how do you plead? The lady can say, well, I plead guilty. Now they're going to change up the whole course of the court, all right? And when they change up the whole course of the court, they can probably lesser the sentence or whatever that they want to do. But the point of the matter is, they give her an opportunity to make a confession. If she pleads guilty, she is divorced forthwith. But if she protested her innocence, if she defends herself, she is taken to the east gate of the temple. That's very significant, brothers and sisters. She's taken to the east gate of the temple. Her garments are rent. Her hair is loosened. Now remember that. Her garments are rent, torn from her. Her hair is loosed. Her ornaments are removed. Remember this. Her ornaments are removed, and a common rope tied around her breast. Two women are not permitted to undergo the ordeal together, okay, at the same time. All right? So here's some key things. The east gate of the temple. This is where the woman is brought. Clothes are torn from her. Her hair is exposed because it's covered, okay? All the jewelry that she has on her is removed. We read all of those things in Exodus, Numbers, and so forth. Exodus, when they were given the calf that was grounded up into powder and were made to drink, remember what Aaron did to them. They were naked. Remember they took off their jewelry and so forth. All of these things are tying or connecting to this trial of a woman. Remember, this is about Israel and the Messiah. Okay? So let's continue. The meal offering was then presented to the priest, and the water prepared by mingling it with the dust from the floor of the temple. If there was no dust there, what may be used as a substitute is considered. Also, how much dust it takes. And it is insisted that the dust must be poured upon the water and not vice versa. So, you have the dust that is taken from the floor of the temple. That's very important. All right, we need to find that text about the woman caught in adultery, in the very act of adultery. That's John chapter 8. And we're going to read from verses 1. Now remember what I said, what has been read here. What was read in Numbers chapter 5, where the priest takes some dust from the temple floor and begins the portion to give to this woman to drink, who the husband suspects of being unfaithful. Let's go to John chapter 8, verses 1, and show you from the rabbinical writings of the Sotah that the Messiah can be clearly seen in it. John 8:1. Go ahead and read.
Yeshua went unto the Mount of Olives.
So here we go at the Mount of Olives. We read in Exodus that they were at the mountain when Moses had the commandments, or the ketubah, and we also saw Moses grounded up this calf and made them to drink. Continue reading.
And early in the morning he came again into the people.
And remember the time, very early in the morning. It's the same thing with Moses, with early in the morning also, that he said to them, get yourself prepared early in the morning and present yourself clean before this mountain.
And all the people came unto him, and he sat down and taught them.
Now, if you notice carefully, verses 2, it says, he came again into the temple. So Yeshua was inside of the temple. And he sat down, he was inside the temple, and he was teaching them. Continue.
The scribes and Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery, and when they had set her in the midst. So
they brought this woman into the temple where Yeshua was sitting and he was teaching inside the temple. Now, if you don't know anything about temple service, you're going to miss all of this. First of all, the Pharisees could never bring a woman into any place in a temple. There's a specific place where women are allowed to come in. A certain place. That's the reason why when you read the Sotah, it says, east gate of the temple, the woman was brought to the east gate of the temple, the court of the women. So she was brought inside the temple, and we know from reading the rabbinical writings, the sages, that was the east gate. Continue reading.
They said unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery.
They called him Rabbi. This woman was taken in the very act of adultery.
And Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned.
What law is that?
Sotah.
The same Sotah. Numbers 5, the laws of jealousy. Okay? And on some of the other laws too, but that's just part of it. Go ahead and read.
But what sayest thou? This they said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him. But Yeshua stooped down, and with his finger wrote on the ground, as though he heard them not.
So now, Yeshua being a priest, and we're going to see how he's a priest. Just as in Numbers, that the woman is brought before the priest by the husband, she now was really caught in the very act of adultery. She was guilty. But they tried to see what kind of Torah person he was. He was really keeping the Torah, because Deuteronomy says that I am going to send a prophet like unto me. Moses was the embodiment of Torah. He spent all that time in Torah. And so they was trying him here. And we can see he stooped down just as the priest will stoop down to reach for some of that dust of the temple floor. So continue reading.
So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, He that is without sin among you, let him cast a stone at her.
Now, some folks will read that, and they will say, oh, you see, he's talking about their conscience and so forth. No, they simply don't understand. I mean, the conscience is part of it. But based on what? What's the foundation for his judgment? What's his foundation for his verdict? Okay? You have to go back to the rules, the halakha, the laws. You have to go back to the laws of the Sotah to understand the procedure. No lawyer is going to come up in a court and start doing whatever he feels like doing and expect someone to be found guilty or set free based on his nonsense. There's a certain procedure that must go through to prove the innocence or guilt of a person. But something was missing in this trial. All right? So verses 9, go ahead and read. Read from 9 to verses 11.
And they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last, and Yeshua was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. When Yeshua had lifted up himself and saw none about the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers? Hath no man condemned thee?
Have no man condemned you? Verses 11.
She said, No man, Lord. And Yeshua said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more.
Read 12 and 13. I want to bring something out here.
Then spake Yeshua again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world.
He's a Torah.
He that follows me shall not walk in darkness.
If you follow Torah, you're not going to have any mistakes.
But shall have the light of life.
You will be saved. You'll be rescued if you follow the Torah.
The Pharisees therefore said unto him, Thou bearest record of thyself.
And that was true, because he is the Torah, and he was bearing record of himself.
Thy record is not true.
But they were wrong. It says your record is not true, because they did not know who they were speaking to. Now, verse 14 says, Yeshua answered and said unto them, Though I bear record of myself, yet my record is true. Everything that he was doing, if you notice the transition of what was going on here, they were bringing a woman to try her for her life, okay? She was guilty, but they were not following the records. They were not going based on the stipulations, the way it should have been done. You cannot bring a woman for adultery and execute her without her husband being the one to bring her for judgment. It's the husband. The husband was the one. If his wife was caught in adultery, it's up to the husband. He is the one who holds the life and death sentence over his wife. He's the one that holds the key to her survival. He's the one that protects her, and he's the one that can cast her out. They could not go around the husband. They did not bring the husband to the trial and say, your wife is found guilty. What are you going to do? If the husband says, kill her, stone her, then everything is going to go through. Then that's where Yeshua would take this dust from the temple floor, give it to her, make her drink of it, and everything goes through, and then she dies, and that's it. Case closed. But they did not follow the protocols that's found in the Torah. That's why they accused him of breaking the records. But he threw it right back at them and says, you guys are the ones that is not following the Torah. You guys are messing everything up. That's why I say, if you don't understand the rabbinical writings, you're not going to understand Paul. You're not going to understand any of these other people, because you are twisted under the doctrine of the Vatican, of Christianity, a perverted Torah, just like the Pharisees, or not all the Pharisees, but those corrupted Pharisees. Let me continue reading here. Now we're going to look at the parallels of the Sotah.
1 minute, please. They were supposed to bring both the man that she commit adultery with and the woman, both of them.
That's correct.
Because if you look at Leviticus 20:10 and Deuteronomy 22:22, you will notice that the law was set down, was laid down for an adulterer and an adulteress, both of it. You have to have both of them, not just the woman alone.
Correct. That's very true.
Even if the husband is present, but they must bring both of them that she had the act with, and they did not do that.
And that's why there was a mistrial. Okay?
Yeah.
Let me continue reading some things here now. We're going to do some parallels. From here on, I'm going to read some Sotah, and I'm going to compare with the trial of the Messiah, okay? So you can have proof. You can have proof that Yeshua is the Messiah. This is Talmud, Sotah 7a. Mishnah. They bring her up. This is the woman. It's accused of adultery. They bring her up to the great court of justice. So as I'm reading it, I want you to picture the Messiah. They bring her up to the great court of justice, which is in Jerusalem. That's why Messiah was not brought somewhere else. And the judges solemnly charge her in the same way that they charge witnesses in capital cases. That means cases of death, okay? And say to her, my daughter, wine does much, frivolity does much, youth does much, bad neighbors do much. Do it for the sake of his great name, which is written in holiness, so that it may not be obliterated by the water. And they relate to her matters which neither she nor all the family of her father's house is worthy to hear. So let me stop for a second. So they bring the woman to Jerusalem, as I said before. And they charge her and says, listen, We know that, when you drink and you become drunk, your mind is not right, you might find yourself in adultery, okay? So go ahead, daughter, confess. Did you drink and, you lost your mind and you ended up in bed with this man? Or you was careless, or, you slipped, or maybe your neighbors convinced you to go ahead and give it a try? Speak before the Lord. Confess before you drink this water. Now, they do this thing in private. Now, let's go to the book of John, chapter 18, and I'm going to show you, because this woman is brought to Jerusalem. We all know after Yeshua had met with his 12 disciples, had the bread and wine, he was in the garden, he was praying, they took him, and they brought him to trial. So now we're going to pick it up from there. And John 18, 12 to 16.
Then the band and the captain and officers of the Jews took Yeshua and bound him, and led him away to Annas first, for he was father-in-law to Caiaphas, which was the high priest that same year. Now Caiaphas was he which gave counsel to the Jews that it was expedient that one man should die for the people.
Mm-hmm.
And Simon Peter followed Yeshua, and so did another disciple. That disciple was known unto the high priest, and went in with Yeshua into the palace of the high priest.
Into the palace of the high priest. Now, this is very important. Keep that in mind. Continue reading.
But Peter stood at the door without. Then went out that other disciple, which was known unto the high priest, and spake unto her that kept the door, and brought. Okay, you can stop there. And if you notice carefully, Peter was outside. So it was in privacy that the conversation or certain things went on. Just as the Sotah says that certain things are said to the woman, and members of the family is not worthy to hear what was said. So Peter, being a member of Yeshua's family, his close circle, was not allowed inside this palace room. He was outside. This is how the Sotah is saying certain things. This is what happened with Messiah. So let me continue here. If she said, I have misconducted myself, I misbehaved myself, she gives a quittance for her marriage settlement. So now we find that they were questioning Yeshua, and they strike him with a palm and says certain things to him. Confess, confess, confess. They question him. They ask him to recant his being the Messiah and so forth. But he did not. So they've given her this opportunity to recant. Now it says here, but if she says, I am pure, what did Yeshua says? When they try him, he did not recant himself as being who he said he was. He never recanted, and you know the story, so I'm not going to get into all the details on that. I'm just going to read and show you some things, and it's going to come to mind. It says, if she says, I am pure, they bring her up to the east gate, which is by the entrance of the Nicanor's gate, where they give suspected women water to drink. They give suspected women water to drink. Purify women after childbirth, so the women who just had a child and has to bring an offering, they will come to this part of the gate. This is the gate of the women. And it also says lepers are brought there. And it says a priest seizes her garment. So what the priests do, they strip her naked. They take her garments from her. If they are rent, they are rent. If they become unstitched, they are unstitched until he uncovers her bosom. So they only uncovers up to her breast. And this is part of the same process that's found in the story with the Messiah. Now, let me continue reading here. It says, in the Sotah 7a, it says, and he, the priest, undoes her hair. Rabbi Judah says, if her bosom was beautiful, he does not uncover it. And if her hair was beautiful, he does not undo it. If she was clothed in white, he clothes her in black. If she wore golden ornaments and necklaces, earrings and finger rings, they removed them from her in order to make her repulsive. After that, the priest takes a common rope and binds it over her breasts. Whoever wishes to look upon her comes to look, with the exception of her male and female slaves, because her heart is made defiant through them.
all women are permitted to look upon her, as it is said, that all women may be taught not to do after your lewdness. So this woman here that is found guilty, her clothes are torn, but if she's beautiful, because of the priests, the other priests that are there as witnesses and so forth for viewing this trial, they would just keep her covered. They just put on this dark garment on her. Now here's something that I really want to focus on. So she's wearing another garment of someone else, okay, not her original clothing. Her necklaces are removed. Her earrings are removed. Her finger rings are removed. All these things are removed from her. What do we see in Exodus 32? In Exodus 32, we find that when Israel was going into harlotry, okay, when Moses was on the mountain, Aaron had taken all these things off of them. But then later on it says that Aaron had made them naked. Okay? And you can go back and read that. Aaron made her naked. That's important. So we can find the parallels between what's written in the Talmud and also what is written in the scriptures. Okay? This is the process. Messiah was going through the same process as his wife. He took her punishment. She could not die. He was the one that has the power to lay down his life on the behalf of his wife and also to take it up again. That's what he told them. But she is already there. They lead her up. Okay? Now we're going to look at the parallels of the trial. So they'll take this woman, they will lead her up and they will lead her down for the purpose of wearying her. For it has been taught, Rabbi Simon Eleazar says, the court causes the witness to be taken from place to place, that their mind may become confused and they retract if it's false. So, according to the Sotah, part of the trial is to make the woman go up and down from place to place, from one court, one area to the next, and so forth, to make her tired. Because when she goes through this ordeal and she's tired, she's going to say, okay. If she's a strong woman and she was not guilty, she will stand her ground. If she's defiant, she'll stand her ground. But if going through the process of being worn out, she will say, okay, I give in, I did it, I did sleep around, I was guilty, and so forth. Now let's look at John 18 and verse 13. John 18, 13, and then jump down to verses 24.
And led him away to Annas first, for he was father-in-law to Caiaphas, which was the high priest that same year.
So they brought Yehoshua to Annas first. That's the first place they brought him. Now let's jump down to verses 24.
And Annas had him bound unto Caiaphas the high priest.
Okay, read it again.
Now Annas had sent him bound unto Caiaphas the high priest.
The Sotah says that the woman is led from place to place to make her tired, hoping that she would confess, right? This is what Yeshua went through. First Annas, now to Caiaphas, from the smaller court to the big court, to weary him out. Jump down to verses 28.
Then led they Yeshua from Caiaphas unto the hall of judgment.
So now from Caiaphas' place, now they took him to the hall of judgment. So you see, what is written in the Sotah, in the Talmud, is also found in the Brit Hadashah. Hallelujah. So they led him from Caiaphas to the hall of judgment. Continue.
It was early, and they themselves went not into the judgment hall, lest they should be defiled, but that they might eat the Passover.
Amen. So why was Yehoshua the only one given something to drink? We're going to look at that too. We're going to skip through and look at that. The Sotah says, for we have learned, they do not give two suspected women the water to drink at the same time, nor purify two lepers at the same time, nor bore the ears of two slaves at the same time. So when a woman is suspected of being wrong, and let's say that, because it's a court, you're going to have several cases to be dealt with, they're not all going to be tried at the same time. So we find that Yeshua went through something very similar. John 18, verses 11. We're already in 18. Let's read verses 11. Let's see what Yeshua said.
Then said Yeshua unto Peter, put up thy sword into thy sheath. The cup which my Father hath given me, shall I not drink it?
So Peter put away his sword. The cup which my Father hath given me, because I am taking on the role of the wife, and I have to drink it. Because he said, son, you go, because someone has to die for all these crimes. It's a covenant. So who's going to do it? The son says, Daddy, I'm going to do it on the behalf of my wife. I'm going to lay down my life for my wife, because I love her. He says, okay, son, you have to drink it, because I know you have the power to lay down your life and to take it again. Someone has to pay the price. So the one who can do it, that's you. So we can see that he declared, shall I, singular, not drink it? He was the only one who would receive the gall on that tree. Sotah continues to say, now we're talking about the garments now. A priest seizes her garments. Our rabbis have taught, and let the hair of the woman's head go loose. I only have here mention of her head. Whence is it derived that it applies to her body? The text states, the woman, if so, is what the object of the text declaring? And let the hair of the head go loose. It teaches that the priest undoes her hair. So they're having a discussion among these rabbis and come to the conclusion that the hair of the woman has to be unloosed. This is a statement of Rabbi Judah, but the sages say, a man is stone naked, but a woman is not stone naked. Read it again. A man is stoned naked, but a woman is not stone naked. So let's take a look at this and flip it around. The Sotah is saying, by principle, a man, when he's condemned, according to the law, he's stone naked. Takes clothes. That's why, remember with Stephen, when he was stoned, they took the clothes and so forth. Okay, I'll leave that alone. So a man is stone naked, but a woman is not stone naked. Now, because we know that the woman is Israel, and the man, Yehoshua, is taking the role of the woman, he now becomes naked in her place. So the Sotah gives us a little glimpse of this precept. Let's go to Luke 23 and 34. I don't have too much again to read, brothers and sisters. I'm going to try to wrap it up here shortly, so just bear with me. I'm going to try to pick up a little bit of speed here. But nevertheless, this is something very important that we need to teach. Luke 23:34.
Then said Yeshua, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they parted his raiment and cast lots.
So they took his clothing, just as it says in the Sotah. Now let's go over to Psalms 22 and verses 18. Psalms 22 and 18.
They part my garments among them and cast lots upon my vesture.
In the volume of the book, it is written of me. He says, go back to the prophets. Read the scriptures. It testifies of me. Because they were wondering, those guys walking the street, well, why did all those things happen? He's supposed to be the Messiah. And he was telling them, yes, I am the Messiah, because those things was written of me. So it's saying here that they part my garments. You're seeing me naked here. You're seeing me half naked here. This was prophesied. So all this is part that's found in the Sotah happened to Yeshua. Now let's continue here. Parallels of the trial. In the Talmud, it continues to say, is this to say that the Mishnaic teachers that teaches Torah, the oral Torah that was passed down, disagree with respect to this teaching of Rabbi Naaman? No. Everybody is in agreement with Rabbi Naaman's teaching, but they differ here on the following point. The rabbis hold that this disgrace of being stripped naked, right, is worse than physical pain. And Rabbi Judah holds that physical pain is worse than disgrace. So you have these rabbis making this commentary. They're going back and forth, arguing the case of which is worse, being stripped naked or being beaten or stoned or whatever the case may be. Which one is worse? So they're saying, well, being stripped naked, the disgrace of that is even worse. And it says here in the Sotah, if she was clothed in white, etc., it has been taught if black garments became her, they clothed her in mean garments to really put her to shame. Because when she prostituted herself, when she was a whore, she dressed up with fine garments, perfumed herself, wear the jewelry, just the same way that in Exodus 32, they were all decked up to go have an orgy with these other gods, okay? But they were stripped naked to shame them. Let's go to Matthew 27 and 28. Matthew 27 and 28.
And they stripped him and put on him a scarlet robe.
So they stripped Yehoshua and they put on him a scarlet robe. What's the significance of a scarlet robe? I'm going to stop for a moment and give you guys to dive into that question. What's the significance? First of all, whose robe did they put on him?
They put on the robe of the horse robe.
Of who?
The horse robe.
Give me a little more detail on that, because I need some more meat on that bone.
Yeah, because the horse, the pagan churches, you know what I'm saying? That Israel committed abomination with.
Who did the clothing belong to?
It belonged to the Caesars.
It belonged to the Roman, to the soldiers.
Yeah, the Roman people, yeah.
That's correct, correct. So you're talking about a Hebrew, an Israelite that is pure, and you're putting on something that's defiled on him. This is the message here, and not just that alone, but it happened to be a scarlet robe.
Yeah.
The color of
the
sin.
The woman riding the beast. Just the woman riding the beast. With the
woman riding the beast, that's correct. Like I said, we can take this on so many different levels, but we just don't have enough time. There's going to be a lot of stuff popping up here. Let's continue to verses 29 and read to, stop on 31.
And when they had platted a crown of thorns, they put upon his head, and a reed in his right hand. And they bowed the knee before him, and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! And they spit upon him, and took the reed, and smote him on the head. And after they had mocked him, they took the robe off from him, and put his own raiment on him, and led him away to crucify him.
So the Sotah says, like good judges do on the Supreme Court bench. So they're sitting here making this case, and it says, which one is worse? Is it the beaten, or is it being stripped naked and shamed in that form? And the one rabbi says, no, definitely, beaten is one thing, but being stripped naked carries a little bit more, especially for a woman. In this case, you're talking about the Messiah, the one who made this whole entire earth, being put in open shame by Gentile people, being disgraced in the presence of his own people.
It's a sign of humility.
You see what's going on here? It's the Word. Yeshua is the Word, you see? And what the harlot church has done, they have perverted the Word. That's what they were doing. They have destroyed it. So that's what they were doing when they were crucifying it, letting you know that they have taken him, which is the Word, which is the living Torah, and they have cast it under their foot. They have ground it to a nothing. That's what they're doing.
Very, very true. But the point is that as we study this, we can learn so many things that the Messiah is the real Messiah, even among the rabbis who have denied Yehoshua as being the Messiah. This is what is written in rabbinical writings. This is what happened to Mashiach and how he fulfilled it. Let me continue here because I want to show another side of this with regards to witnesses, people that's seen him. It says, but said Rabbah, the meaning is, whoever wishes to look upon her comes to look. All right? It makes no difference whether they be men or women, but women are obliged to look upon her, as it is said, that all women may be taught not to do after your lewdness. Now, when the Messiah was being exposed, all of Israel that was there, I should say Judah, because the rest of the nation of Israel was not there. They saw him, they looked upon him, and they saw what he went through for their sakes, for our sakes. Okay? And that was to send a message that we should not break his Torah, to see the love that he has for us. Now, let's go to Matthew chapter 1, and let's pick it up at verses 19. I want to show you something here about Joseph. Okay? We're looking at the point about being exposed in the presence of the other women meaning Israel, that Israel would not continue in a way of being lewd, and so forth. Matthew 1 and 19. Then Joseph, her husband, being a just man, and not willing to make her a public example, make her. Remember last week, Brother Elias said that whatever happened to Miriam is also tied to the house of Israel. Joseph, being her husband, being a just man, was not willing to make her a public example. The public example we just read in the Sotah, that women will see and be instructed not to do after this wrong. He says, was minded to put her away privately. Okay? Now we're going to read Zechariah 12 and 10.
And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications. And they shall look upon me, whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him, as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him, as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn.
So in Zechariah 12 and 10, you can see and you can note this bitterness being part of the process of this trial. Bitterness, okay? The Talmud continues to say, this is the Mishnah, says, in the measure with which a man measures, it is meted out to him. She adorned herself for a transgression, just like Exodus 32 says, they all had jewelry on them to commit sins against the Most High. She adorned herself for a transgression. The Holy One, blessed be He, made her repulsive. She exposes herself for a transgression. The Holy One, blessed be He, held her up for exposure. She began the transgression with the thigh and afterward with the womb. So first she exposed her legs to this other man, and then it came about to her womb, to her sacred parts, okay? So therefore, because she progressed from one point to the other, therefore she is punished first in the thigh and afterwards in the womb. So the same way that she started the progression into transgression, from thigh, exposing her legs, being beautiful, exposing her legs, and then coming into intercourse with this other husband, that's the same thing that's going to be meted out to her. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. The Torah cannot be broken. I don't care what nobody says. So whatever happened to her, that's what she's going to be punished with also. So what do we find here? We find, going back to Yeshua taking on the punishment of his wife. The wife exposed herself, he has to be exposed. She exposed her thigh, his thigh is put on trial. Her womb got contaminated, his bowels, his side, his loins also got contaminated, okay? Let's look at John chapter 19, verse 17 to verses 18. And you don't have to read all of 18, just read a part of it.
And he, bearing his cross, went forth into a place called the place of a skull, which is called Golgotha, where they crucified him and two others with him, on either side one, and Yeshua in the middle. Okay, you can stop there. Let's jump on to verses 34. But one of the soldiers with his spear pierced his side, and forthwith came there out blood and water. Once again, blood comes out, water comes out, but it pierced his side. His loins was pierced. Okay? Now, of course, as a man, he doesn't have a womb. But the womb and the loins is interchangeable. It's where reproduction takes place or, happens. The process, okay? And it goes on another level. I'm not going to get into that. I'm sure others will be able to see that too. Talmud says, she stood at the entrance of her house, okay? An eye for an eye. Let's see what goes on here. She stood at the entrance of her house to display herself to the man. Therefore, a priest sets her by the Nicanor gate and displays her disgrace to all. She wove a beautiful scarf about her head for him, for the other guy that she was sleeping with. Therefore, a priest removes her headgear and places it under her feet. So she tied up her head real nice for this dude, with this other guy,
Now the priest is going to expose that and throw it under her feet. John 19, verses 23.
And the soldiers, when they had crucified Yeshua, took his garments and made 4 parts, to every soldier a part, and also his coat. Now the coat was without seam, woven from the top throughout.
Okay, verses 24.
They said therefore among themselves, Let us not rend it, but cast lots for it, whose it shall be, that the scripture might be fulfilled, which saith, They parted my raiment among them, and for my vesture they did cast lots. These things therefore the soldiers did.
So the soldiers were below where he was hanging on that tree. So below his feet, his clothing was below his feet, just as the Sotah says. Everything lines up, line upon line, and so forth. Now, while we have our finger there, let's go back to Exodus 32. I want to show you all something here. Remember, she set herself up really nice to go do her sin, okay? And therefore, she was disgraced and exposed. In Exodus chapter 32, verses 2, 32:2 says, And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives, your sons, your daughters, and bring them unto me. And the people broke off the earrings of the ears and so forth. Let's jump down to verses 25. And when Moses saw that the people were naked, for Aaron had made them naked unto their shame among their enemies. He made them shame among their enemies. Who was the enemies of Israel during the time of the Messiah when he was going through the trial? Can anyone answer that? It was the Romans.
The Romans, of course.
The Romans. So the Messiah was made naked and shamed in the presence of the enemies of Israel, which is Romans. Right here in Exodus 32, that's what it's saying here. Now, if you look at verses 18, let's go to verses 17 of Exodus 32:17 says, When Joshua heard the noise of the people, as they shouted, he said unto Moses, There's a noise of war in the camp. Sounds like some war going on. And he said, It is not the voice of them that shout for mastery, or neither is it the voice of them that cry of being overcome. In other words, this virgin was not crying out because she was being raped. She was crying out because she was enjoying what she was doing. The voice that you hear, Joshua, is a voice of one who's taking pleasure in her sin.
Revelry.
Revelry. So when they caught this woman, she was having a good time. She did not cry out, as we learned last week, as she should have cried out. But it was dancing, having a great time, and so forth. Therefore, judgment was pronounced on her. So who took on that punishment? Yeshua took on that punishment. So they parted his garments, and so forth, okay? Talmud says, she painted her eyes for him. Therefore her eyes protrude, her eyes stick out. She plaited her hair for him. Now it's interesting how the Talmud says she plaited her hair for him. Now what people under the face of heaven plait their hair as part of their culture? People of color. She plaited her hair for him. Therefore, a priest undoes her hair. Okay? Let's go to Isaiah 52 and 14. Isaiah 52 and 14.
As many were astonished at thee, his visage was so marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men.
So his appearance was so disfigured, more than anyone. That's what the Sotah is saying. She made herself beautiful, now she's going to look ugly. Okay? It's going to mess her whole features up and make her look very disgraceful. And that's what the Messiah went through. He suffered disgrace. His face was disfigured. So everything falls in line. The jewelry, the apparel, everything, the drinking, and so forth. Now we're going to come to the vinegar, the bitterness. Numbers 5 talks about the bitter drink that she had to take. Exodus talks about it too. The Sotah says she gave him costly wine to drink in costly goblets. She, the woman, gave this man that she was with wine in expensive goblets, therefore, or cups. Therefore, a priest gives her water of bitterness to drink in a potsherd, a very cheap pottery, like something you put plants in, earthen vessel. Okay, she spent money on this man instead of spending money on her husband, took the husband's things and gave it to other men, the same way Israel allowed the heathen to come in, like Hezekiah opened the doors and they saw all the goblets and everything of Israel. And the Lord says, what did you show them? Oh, I showed them everything. He says, okay, whatever you show them, they're going to come and take everything away. So it says, therefore a priest gives her water of bitterness to drink. Let's see what John says. John 19 and 29 and verses 30. John 19, Yochanan 19, 29 and 30.
Now there was a vessel full of vinegar, and they filled a sponge with vinegar, and put it upon hyssop, and put it to his mouth.
Now vinegar is nothing but spoiled wine. Okay? Remember, she gave wine in expensive goblets, but now the priest gives her bitterness in a cheap vessel. So they're giving Yeshua cheap wine, you can say, okay, the bad spoiled wine in a cheap fashion, okay? They are degrading him by giving him this thing. Read it again.
Now there was set a vessel full of vinegar, and they filled a sponge with vinegar, and put it upon hyssop, and put it to his mouth. When Yeshua therefore had received the vinegar, he said, it is finished.
He said what?
It is finished.
Mm-hmm.
And he bowed his head and gave up the spirit.
It is finished. Not everything in the Bible is finished, but that particular role that he had to play as Numbers chapter 5, that part was complete. He had to fulfill that part of the trial of the wife. That's what he was doing when he says it was finished. Talmud says, Absalom gloried in his hair. Therefore he was hanged by his hair. And because he cohabited with 10 concubines of his father, therefore he was stabbed with 10 lances, as it is said, and 10 young men that bear Joab's armor compassed about. And because he stole 3 hearts, the heart of his father, the heart of the court of the justice, and the heart of Israel, as it is says, so Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. Now, 10 is significant, and that's the sword, as for another teaching. But what is said here is that Absalom was beautiful. He had beautiful hair. And he was hanged by his hair. What happened to the Messiah? We see that he was hanged. What was put on his head? Okay? So we don't even need to go further on that one. Let's go to Jeremiah 9:14 to 16. We're wrapping it up really quick. We're going to be in Jeremiah for a minute. Jeremiah 9:14 and 16. We got a few more verses and then we're going to close.
But have walked after the imagination of their own heart, and after Balaam, which their fathers taught them.
Balaam is another husband.
Therefore, thus saith Yah of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will feed them, even this people, with wormwood.
Wormwood, okay.
And give them water of gall to drink.
So the same way that the wife had to go through this trial, given something bitter to try her, remember what I said, something bitter to try her, Revelation should ring a bell, wormwood, to give them, he says, I'm going to give Israel, this people, wormwood, and give them water of gall to drink. Continue reading 16.
I will scatter them also among the heathen, whom neither they nor their fathers have known.
He's sparing their lives, our lives, cast us among the heathen.
And I will send a sword after them, till I have consumed them.
The wicked. Now let's go to Jeremiah 23, verse 14 to 16. Jeremiah 23, 14 to 16.
I have seen also in the prophets of Jerusalem an horrible thing. They commit adultery and walk in lies. They strengthen also the hands of evildoers, that none doth return from his wickedness. They are all of them unto me as Sodom, and the inhabitants thereof as Gomorrah. Therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts concerning the prophets, Behold, I will feed them with wormwood, and make them drink the water of gall. For from the prophets of Jerusalem is profaneness gone forth into all the land. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, Hearken not unto the words of the prophets that prophesy unto you. They make you vain. They speak a vision of their own heart, and not out of the mouth of Yah.
Because the mouth of the Lord is prophesying about the Messiah. But the mouth of these false prophets is prophesying something false. That's why we have these false messiahs running around. But here's the thing now. Gall is given because of sin. How do we know this? How do we know that this is about sin? Let's go a step further. Let's go to, keep your finger in Jeremiah. Let's go to Psalm 69 and 21. As punishment, God says, I'll make them to drink gall.
They gave me also gall for my meat, and in my thirst they gave me vinegar to drink.
So that's prophecy about the Messiah, what he had to go through, right in the Psalms with regards to him. Let us take our last and final text in the book of Jeremiah 8 and 14. Jeremiah 8 and 14.
Why do we sit still? Assemble yourselves, and let us enter into the defenced cities, and let us be silent there. For Yah our God hath put us to silence, and given us water of gall to drink, because we have sinned against the Lord.
Why did he give the gall, the water of gall to drink?
Because we have sinned against Yah.
Because we have sinned against him. That's why the wife went through, because he says, I am a jealous God, don't have no other husbands before me. He suspected her of jealousy. He sends the witness to look into this whole matter, the priest to deal with the whole thing. And we see throughout the Tanakh evidence of the Messiah and his bride. What Israel went through fell upon the Messiah because she could not bear it. So that's why Isaiah says, he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. Because whatever happened to his wife, he decided to take it upon himself. The gall, the nudity, the shame, everything. This is why we see that Yahushua is that Messiah. I don't know of any other person in the past, or even those who want to propagate in the future, that has ever gone through something like this. So I'm going to stop there, and I hope that you all have learned something tonight. There's so much more we could have given. As I said, we're kind of cheating ourselves a bit, because each piece that I brought here could have been broken down on many, 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 many levels.